Good morning. My name is Anu Namalu. I am a member of League of Women Voters of Peoria. On behalf of the League and Peoria North Branch Library, we would like to welcome all the audience who are here in person and everybody who is watching live on YouTube channel. Today, we welcome our candidates running for Peoria County Board Districts 6 and 8. We appreciate the audience who are here. And also, we would like to tell you a little bit about our League of Women Voters. It is a non-partisan organization. We do not endorse any candidate or political parties. But we do take position on issues after extensive research. One of our missions of the League is to educate everyone about voting. We do this through our candidate forums. We've been doing this for many years, and it is a way for everyone to hear about the candidates and learn a little bit more about their stance on the issues. So we hope today you will walk away with a little bit more information about each candidate, and also inform your friends and family who are not here about the candidates. Because we would like you to start voting early. September 26th is when the early voting starts. And the election day is November 5th. Today we have 2 candidates running for each district on the ballot. So we have Mr. Brett Beachler, Miss Eden Blair, and we have Mr. Nathan Hoerr and Miss Marcia McCann running through. Okay. Today our moderator is Mr. Christopher Hoerr. He will run through all the rules and he will get us started. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much to all of you, and we appreciate everyone coming out and sharing a Saturday morning with us at these forums. Our goal, of course, with all of this is to be as fair as possible to each of the candidates by offering you all equal time to respond to the questions, and to be as fair as possible to the audience in giving you the opportunity to learn a little bit about their points of view on 2 very important races here. Prior to taking the lecture, I observed these candidates as they drew cards for their order of seating. We will move through beginning with opening statements and then continuing with questions. Each time we will move down 1 in the cycle with the next person to respond first. If you notice a deviation in that, i.e. if I screw up with something, please let me know, wave your hand. We have a different signal for letting you know when the time is up. As with our previous forum, I can assure you that no candidate has had the opportunity to review these questions beforehand, as I was just handed them to me before we began. We have question collectors throughout the room. For those of you who have joined us between forums here, we encourage you to submit your own questions. Those question takers, wave your hand with the questions and that you are accepting. We'll come around with note cards. We'll take more of them. We are, as Anu said, live streaming this forum on the Lee's YouTube page. It will be accessible there for anybody to review after the fact. We encourage you to direct them to that page for those who could not be here in person today. For those of you, again, who were not here at the last forum, I will remind you to please silence your cell phone so it does not disrupt the proceedings. If you do need to take a call, please feel free to leave, again, so it does not disrupt the proceedings. And we ask for no applause or other verbal interruptions during the course of the forum. There will be ample time to discuss your views with the candidates after the forum. Otherwise, we will offer everybody a hearty round of applause to begin and 1 at the end to congratulate everybody. So we can applaud them back. And we will begin with opening statements, beginning with Mr. Beachler.
Good morning, everybody. Brett Beachler. I guess my opening statement would be, why am I doing this? As my kids grew up, I would have them walk in the house and not flop on the couch. I would say, when you walk in the house with your stay-at-home mom, ask your mom, what can I do to help? I have 24 employees at our organization. We've been in business 73 years. My grandpa started in 1951. I'm proudly carrying on. My dad passed in January, but I'll tell everybody he accepted Christ with 4 days left of his life, so that's the greatest moment of my year this year. My wife and I are married, have 5 kids, but I get back to my business. My why statement is, I tell my employees, if you got a problem, come to me with concern and you propose solution. But then I sit here and I complain about our politics, our local politics, our state politics, our national politics, and I don't do anything about it. So my why's got a lot of thrust in terms of what is going on with the city and the county. I would like to be a voice at the table to help right the ship. Anyway, my wife and I have 5 kids. We've got 7 grandkids. We have number 8 on the way, proudly. About 5 of them live around here and 3 in Colorado. And we've got busy lives, but we love it and get to go to flag football game today. But looking forward to the opportunity for the competition, and may the best man and woman win. Thank you.
All right.
Sorry.
Dr. Blair.
Hi, thank you guys so much for coming out today. I'm taking up part of your Saturday to be here. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for providing this forum. I grew up in Texas, but I did move here 17 years ago. I really made Peoria my home. I feel like I have a family here, and I plan to stay here for the rest of my life. And that's one of the reasons why I want to support what we do here so much. I am a professor at Bradley in the Foster College of Business. I focus on entrepreneurship and working with mission-based organizations, which is what Peoria County is. I was appointed to the board in 2019 and was reelected in 2020 and 2022. I feel like I've been able to make a difference, particularly in terms of economic development, by supporting over 30 small businesses get initial grants to help them get started, as well as helping larger businesses get loans. I've been very excited to work with the health department and help them build their new campus, which is just down the street from where I live. It's really important to me to listen to my constituents, to listen to those who are the most vulnerable, and find ways to help solve their problems. Thank you, guys.
Oh,
Straight.
is it on?
That's right.
Oh, we're not going
You were on. You were on.
Okay, I'm on. Okay, well, after that, Nate Hoerr, representing District 8 for Peoria County. I want to first off thank the League of Women Voters for having us out here today. It's always fun to come out here. And also you guys taking part of your Saturdays to come out here and hear what we have to say. And then also the library. Thanks for I don't know if there's any library reps here, but appreciate them. It goes back to the days when there's a special place in my heart for the library. My mom used to take me to the McClure library, and I used to get the max 10 books that I could. And so I'm still a good patron of the library, which just happens to reside in District 8, of course. So thank you to the library. So I'm married to Suzanne. We have 6 kids that range from 30 all the way down to 17. Our last one's a senior at Dunlap High School. I own Hoerr Nursery in concert with some other family members. I've been here in Peoria, lifelong Peorian, except for when I went to the University of Illinois. And then a short stint after that, I lived in Bloomington while I commuted back and forth to the family business. I currently serve on the Operations Committee with the County Board, the Public Safety, and Public Health. And I've also served on a special committee that reviewed where the Election Commission building was going to be. And on just a short assignment, we were reviewing how the county administrator is being evaluated and consulted, and we were streamlining that process. So what do I bring to the county board? Well, I bring a common sense, business sense, and a spirit of collaboration. I also bring balance. The current board is currently 10 Democrats and 8 Republicans, so I think it's good to have a balanced view on there. And I also have a 4S strategy, which I hope to share with you here in the upcoming minutes. So thank you.
And Marcia?
Hi, I'm sorry, Marcia McCann, and thank you to everyone for being here, and thank you to the League of Women Voters. I am a lifelong Peoria resident as well. I grew up in the Rolling Acres subdivision where my parents still live today. I have a home in the Park East subdivision, and I bought that in 1990, and I've been living there since. I have 4 children, 6 grandchildren. They all live in Peoria, in the city of Peoria, and they attend public schools. So I am very vested in the Peoria area and the community, the school system, everything that has to do with Peoria for my family as well. When I'm not involved with this family, I am a precinct committeeman. I've been that for many years. I am involved with the organization called the Radnor Rod and Campground Club. I'm the treasurer there. I'm a UAW Local 974 retired Caterpillar employee. I served on a lot of different committees there, ranging from a shop steward to all the way up to the Illinois State Board for the UAW CAP Council. I'm very active with the CAP organization, which is Community Action Program. I'm on the board there at the local level and at the state level. And that is where I learned about community service and getting involved in the community and helping the community. I've considered running for board for many years now, and I want to take my leadership role, through my union experience and the CAP committee experience to another level, and invest in this future of this community and serve the people of the District 8. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. We're going to begin with our questions, and we're going to begin with Eden, move through, and with Brett, and continue that rotation down. So we're going to spend our first several questions here talking about money. That the current board has prioritized uses for the one-time federal American Rescue Act plan dollars. Those ARPA funds have to be obligated or contracted by December 31st of this year. They must be spent by the end of 2026, or else you got to give it back. Over 14 million of the 35 million in Peoria County funds are being used to build the new Health and Human Services Center on Sheridan Avenue. Do you believe this is a good use of these funds? Why or why not?
So Peoria County's buildings and facilities are woefully out of date. And probably the biggest one was the health campus. It was built in pieces. Every couple of decades, another piece was added, making an incredibly inefficient building, barely made ADA codes, and was not user-friendly for those who needed it. The new campus, which holds the health department, the coroner's office, and part of the regional office of education, allows far more of our constituents access to services that they need in a safe and efficient manner. It's actually going to save us money in terms of energy efficiency, as well as just getting services to people. I think it was well overdue, and it was a good thing for us to do.
Me.
Yes, we had initially the original budget for the building was close to, they initially thought it'd be 21 million. Some stuff we saw was 28 million. So that it got down to 14 million. That was a great use of the ARPA funds, especially given the tight timeline that we're on. And as Enid said, if you ever visited the building, you'd go through, it was cobbled together. You'd go through different parts of it, and you can kind of tell the era that it was built in. So it didn't serve the constituents well. And probably one of the primary services that they were touting was the dental service. A lot of people don't know how many people get their dental services at the health department. We talked about where it should be, and it ended up it should be right where it was. So that was a great decision. So overall, I think that it was a great decision with the use of the money that, in fact, the livelihood of it, they say, is going to be beyond 75 years. So we're planning for the future with the building of the health department.
All right, Marcia.
I believe also that it was a good use of the money. When you can combine services and be more efficient, it's always for the benefit of the community. And what better way to spend the money, in health and human services? That's what government is for, is to serve the public. And the fact that it is in the same location, people are familiar with that. So I believe that was a good decision as well. And to come under budget, that's always a good thing. So I believe it was a very good use of the money.
All right, Brett.
Sure. Being a Peoria graduate, I knew the health department well, went by it every day going to school. Absolutely agree, need to be done. Where I had a little bit of opposition is the original budget was 14 million. I know it climbed well beyond that. I had a little bit of a problem with this when these type of things happen. I couldn't do that in my small business. Have that kind of expenditure, have a budget set, and then suddenly a budget explodes to a lot more money than that. We had an addition to our building. The budget was set at a certain amount, and we kept at that. And we had to. It was private money. My plan with our money is to be a steward, just like you're a steward of your money at home, and we should be a good steward of our money in the government. We got that heading to notes that's looming over our head. That was a bad decision on Peoria County's part. No doubt about it. Every person agrees with that. So those type of financial decisions, I certainly would like to look at it through a lens of a business operator standpoint. I think that's the best when somebody who's met payroll, who meets, reads P&Ls on a monthly basis. I think that kind of skill and that kind of presentation and that kind of decision-making when it comes to things such as the health department need to be done. So absolutely in support of it, but in the end, we cannot go over budget like that. Nobody can sustain that. It's not sustainable in the state, federal, city, county, not at all. So thank you.
All right. We're going to stay on the health campus for a moment, because when that campus is completed and everybody moves into that, we're going to have some vacant facilities elsewhere in the county, whether that's the regional office of education across the hall from the county board meeting room, or whether that's the old coroner's office space or anything else. What should some of those spaces, particularly when we've got whole buildings that are going to be empty, like the coroner's facility, what should that space be used for? Start with Nate and we'll ahead.
Well, if you've ever been to the present coroner's office, you'll see that a large majority of it is storing boxes for the state's attorney. And so we definitely have a document storage problem in Peoria County because we keep every document, it seems, forever. I would have the goal of less roofs. So fewer roofs to take care of, sell the buildings, get rid of the buildings that we don't need. Don't keep that building in particular as a storage area for documents when there's probably a private contractor or other service that can handle our document storage needs. The regional office of education, which is across from the boardroom, when they move out, the courthouse needs more room anyway. We just completed some renovations in the basement for the IT department and the public defender, and they're in the basement. So those spaces that are vacated will not go unused. So there'll be those that are in existing buildings. We should use the space where it's needed. If they're in outlying buildings, I say get rid of the buildings and plan for something down the road to accommodate what it was being used for.
I believe in the case of unused buildings that selling would be a good consideration, but of course you need to look at the community as a whole and see what other repurposing you could use for that facility. Is there an organization that is in too small a building that needs to move up to a different size and maybe just possibly move some things around? As far as the courthouse goes, courthouses probably always need more space. There's more things coming in, there's more people, there's more to do. So those, I'm sure, will just be repurposed as well. there's always new technology coming available, and we need people and resources to utilize that technology. So some of those spaces can be, in the courthouse specifically, used for offices of that nature.
I'm in the camp of liquidate. I try to run a lean business myself. I like the word repurpose. That is a good word, but at the same time, I don't believe our goal is to keep growing the size of government in our buildings. If there's a private organization that could put it to good use and we could get it off our books and reduce the roof population in the government, I'd be all for it. So I'm a liquidating lean type of person. Thank you.
And Eden.
I don't know if you have ever toured the current coroner's office. It was the old JDC. And so it is not designed for much of anything. That would be very useful. There has been conversations about what to do with that space. It's located in the East Bluff. It may be appropriate to make that into green space. We've had conversations about selling that for low-income or subsidized housing. I am going to agree with Nate that we have too much stuff in too many places. I think it's far more efficient and better use of our funds to move that stuff into a safe, secure, third-party location where we know that is climate controlled and managed. But currently, I don't see that building being of much use to anyone, and we have to use that space for something else.
Okay, we're going to stick on ARPA funds for a minute here. Nearly $15 million of those ARPA funds have been allocated for capital improvements, that is roads, bridges, deferred maintenance on county buildings and other properties. Do you believe that this was a good use of the funds? And I'm going to add on to that, how, after the ARPA money is gone, would you continue that maintenance work? And we'll start with Marcia.
Well, before the ARPA funds, we maintained our roads and buildings and such through the general forms of raising money, your taxes, your things of that nature. So after the ARPA funds are gone, I believe that as a county, we will continue to take care of our business. The ARPA funds have been used for a lot of good things. We're looking at new technologies. We're utilizing new technologies for public safety. One of those uses of funds was the program. It's called, I can't think of the name of it, I'm sorry. But it has to do with police officers and avoiding high-speed chases and tagging vehicles that are involved in a high-speed chase to, you're gaining your property back, you're avoiding danger to the public. That is a new technology. So anytime you can use technology for public safety is a good thing, and that is another thing that we can use ARPA funds for. So anything that we use to benefit the community is definitely a good use of the funds, and we'll continue on like we did prior to those funds, because that's what we did before.
So my biggest concern with the ARPA funds, everybody knows this is going to run out someday. We've been on kind of a high of money for quite some time. My biggest concern is the vision that the board has. I believe they do have a great amount of people that have a good vision, but that money's going to go away. And we need people on the board thinking long-term strategics and not short-term. We all just wrote checks for the highest property taxes we've ever paid. And we know, I hope everybody knows in this room, we pay the second highest property taxes in the country. And you know where they're going to want to take the funds from? Possibly raising our property taxes again, and I don't want that to happen. I write 2 checks for my business, and I write 2 checks for my home. And I'd rather they not be the second highest in the country in the coming years. So, thank you.
Eden.
We did not raise taxes. Home values went up at the latest assessment, and so you're probably paying higher taxes, but we at the county did not raise them. But in terms of capital improvements, I do think that in the past, the county board did not have a good plan for how to take our current facilities and make sure that they were in the condition they needed to be. The ARPA dollars have allowed us to develop a strategy about what needed to be done with these buildings, and has given us an opportunity to do a significant amount of the ARPA funds have gone to capital improvements. We do have a plan in place about what those funds will be spent on. It's not the only thing we're spending ARPA funds on. We are looking at small business initiatives, which comes under my committee, the Advisory Committee on Entrepreneurship and Small Business, as well as on access to rural broadband access, which we are still working on. In terms of what we're going to do after, we are aware that these funds will be going. We do have plans for helping to maintain these buildings and keep a priority list of what needs to be done so that we're not in any kind of situation where we've got broken down buildings.
Right, and Nate.
The uses for infrastructure for the ARPA funds were good choices. Primarily, you talked to the sheriff and the JDC, who got a new roof and some improvements to the ring road around his facility. So these are longer term, not flash in the pan, so to speak, type improvements that will long outlast the ARPA funds. We do have a strategic plan for our buildings finally. We're working on that so that, as Enid said, we can prioritize the different improvements to the buildings. And so I don't serve on the infrastructure committee, but we've got some really smart people who do serve on it, and they'll make the right decisions with or without the ARPA funds. So we've had a good track record of keeping track of our buildings. The ARPA funds were, I hesitate to say fell out of the sky, but they were perhaps a godsend to us to help us get over the hump on some of those projects. So I don't have any worries about when those evaporate, because we've got good, smart people in the positions, the county highway commissioner and those on the infrastructure committee.
All right, moving on to the next question, which will start with Brett. The board recently wrote off as uncollectible $1.5 million, down from more than $3 million, in bad debt the Headington Oaks nursing home that closed in the early days of COVID. Was this a good move, or should the county continue to try to collect those funds from families and providers?
Can't squeeze blood out of a current, can you? I don't know if it's a good move or not. All I know is that you can learn from history and what not to step into. Again, we all know Headington Oaks was a poor decision on the county's part, and all we can do is learn from our mistakes. In my business, I call it tuition. People make mistakes in my business all the time. And I don't drop the hammer on them, we learn from them. They continually make mistakes, and I got to make other moves. But I believe the county can learn from this and move on. Thank you.
Okay.
Believe me, all board members have been frustrated with what happened with Headington Oaks. In terms of the funds that the money that we wrote off, it had gotten to the point where our staff were going to spend more time in their labor than it was worth it to get the rest of it done. At some point, you just need to cut your losses on that. I do think that, neither Nate or I were on the board when the decision was made to start Headington Oaks. It was a very rough decision to close it, but I do think that keeping it open would have just put us in a far worse position.
All right, Nate.
Yeah, I won't go down the road of Headington Oaks and what a poor decision it was, but there's hope that the Young Minds Center, which just cut its ribbon on Friday, that has been put in there, and maybe we can look beyond it. But back to the write-off, I think most of the write-offs were with government agencies like Medicare and Medicaid, that there was some paperwork wasn't filled out correctly. So the attempt to do it, CFO McCann worked very hard at trying not to write that off. She came to our board meeting and explained that it was pretty much a dead end. And so at the board meeting, when we voted on it, I think it was in committee, it was a unanimous decision. So there wasn't a lot of talk about this was a bad decision. It was one that, that's just, we're not gonna, some paperwork wasn't filed correctly, they're not gonna pay it, let's move on, because the cost to collect it is just gonna be more than we're actually gonna get out of it.
Okay, Marcia.
I am not familiar with the Headington Oaks issues, probably like most of the Peoria citizens, but what I do know, just from being around the board here in the last 6 to 9 months, is that it was a very difficult process. I believe it was taken care of with responsibility as far as the people who involved on the board made the best decisions with the options that they had. And I would agree with Nate when, saying that you can't overanalyze things to the point where you're just spending so much time on chasing money that's just not there. So I believe that they did the right thing in moving forward, and they made some correct decisions on just getting out of the difficult decision.
All right, we are slightly past 11:30, and we want to make sure we reserve time for opening statements. So you are aware, we are probably going to go one more round through with another 3 to 4 questions, depending on brevity, and then we'll be moving to a conclusion. So, in 2024, and this starts with Eden and moves around, in 2024, the board approved several solar farms across the county and approved wind testing towers, second round of them, that may lead to the first wind turbines in the western part of the county. Do you agree with the expansion of wind and solar energy in the county, and why or why not?
So this is an interesting question, and one from which I get many calls about. I do need to be careful as a county board member in this. The state has set statutes that do not allow us to have more restrictive ordinances than what they have in terms of solar and in terms of wind, as well as if the wind farm, the solar farms have gone through the zoning board of appeals. If we end up having these wind turbines, those will also go through the zoning board. They will make the decision, and the county board, I sit on the land use committee that first reviews the findings of fact from the zoning board, and then that goes to the county board. I am restricted in what we can and cannot do. We will follow our ordinances, and we will follow the law in doing this as we go forward.
Okay.
Let me just say that solar and turbines have replaced the CO2 pipeline at the county board. Last county board meeting, we had at least 8 speakers about wind turbines, where in the past we probably had 2 or 3 CO2 pipeline people talk about it. So it is getting attention. I will say that in principle, I am in support of people to use the property that they own in accordance to the ordinances and the zoning that has been put into place by the county and by the state. Now that said, I think my first challenge to the number of callers that have called me both about solar and wind turbines is, have you talked to the landowner? And the majority of them that I've talked to haven't actually talked to the landowner to see why they're actually doing it. Are they trying to preserve a family farm? Are they trying to preserve revenue for their family and grandkids? So I would say it does take some amount of investigation on the protesters' behalf before you just say I'm for or against it. Now, solar is not as efficient as wind turbines, so they'll probably get more attention on the wind turbines. But I've also said that I'm willing to camp out at the wind turbines in Bradford just to hear the noise and get firsthand experience of what it is to live by a wind turbine, so that I can make a more educated guess.
Okay, Marcia.
I believe that a lot of people's fear of the new technologies is just because it's change and something that they're, unfamiliar with. I definitely support newer forms of energy, as long as, they're of course within the bounds of all the government regulations and, a good neighbor policy, and a lot of it is common sense, but most of it is, regulations and safety. You have to always have safety involved, but we have to look forward to ways to produce energy, or we're all going to be, stuck where we're at, and we have to move forward with it. So I'm a big proponent of these new sources of energy, but of course with common sense.
Right, Brett?
This is always a fun one for me. I've been in the energy business for a long time. I have to keep my fingers on the pulse of energy sources. I've read a lot of books, a lot of articles on energy sources. I agree with Nate, solar is not efficient. Every energy source has a government subsidy out there. I'll be the first one to admit. Oil, solar, wind, everything. But if you ever look at the kilowatts, 1,000 kilowatts per hour subsidy of solar and wind, it's astronomical. So I have no problem with any kind of business like that standing on its own 2 feet. Where I have a problem is the government injection of our taxpayer, middle class taxpayer dollars going into any of these forms of energy. I've done a lot of research. I've got articles that will bore the heck out of you guys, and I'd love to share them with you. And if you read these articles, I guarantee you'd step back a little bit from all these energy sources. I have friends that live by wind farms. It's not fun. They don't like the noise. They don't like the light from it. And I think in the end, I think we're going to have a major regret in our country getting into these energy sources. I feel kind of sad that they have basically taken the coal industry and made it look like it's a redheaded stepchild. But this country wouldn't survive without any kind of fossil fuels injected into it. It's never going to survive on putting wind, solar, all by itself. So with that, I'd love to talk to anybody about that because I know a lot of information about these energy sources just because of the business that I'm in. But I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right, moving to the next question. A decade ago, boy, that makes me feel a little older. A decade ago, voters created a bipartisan election commission in Peoria County. Do you believe the commission does a good job administering elections? If not, what changes do you support to that commission? This starts with Nate.
Well, I think it's a step in the right direction. So I served on a special committee to try to find a new building for the election commission. And my experience with both Elizabeth Gannon, who runs the commission, and then some of the other employees there, it was a great experience. They want to do what's best for the voters of Peoria County. Right now we're under the gun to set up the deluge of mail-in ballots that are going to come in. There's also, I applaud them for getting up to speed on allowing voters to vote at any precinct they want. This past election, I only have to drive to Kickapoo to vote, but I live in the city of, or in the county of Peoria, just by OSF, and I walked across the street to Grace Church. So it was a great improvement. So all in all, I think that they're doing a good job. Now that doesn't mean that we don't need our poll watchers and people to oversee the job that they're doing, because there'll always be some people who feel that they're not handling the elections fairly. But for the most part, I believe they're doing a good job.
Marcia?
I believe a bipartisan commission for the election commission is a good idea for many reasons. You always need input from both sides, and that helps stem some of the theories, the wild theories that the election is, somehow tainted or unfair. When you have bipartisan, then you can show people that that's how you're doing things, and there is no suspicion involved. The people in charge of the commission right now they're very straightforward. They're there for lots of information, answer any questions, and I too agree with the idea that you can pretty much vote anywhere in the county, and it's really going to help the voters. Like Nate said, sometimes you have to go somewhere far away when you actually could just go across the street just because of a boundary line. So I think that's really going to help the voters, and I think they've made a lot of good decisions here.
Certainly, in support of bipartisan. My only major concern on that is that we have fair elections. That's it. Everybody, I don't care what side you're on. I think most of us are very in common on this. So there's really, to me, it's not a debate. It is all about fair elections and, the citizen voting and voting in the right direction to move our country and our county and our city and our state forward. So I'm in full support of these.
Right. Andy?
Sorry.
Every time I talk to anyone over at the election commission, and we just have them hanging out with us on Thursday night, these are people dedicated to fair, safe, secure elections, which I believe all of us are in support of. They're working diligently to make sure they have appropriate space for that. That is where we can help them do that. And I fully support what they're doing and their dedication and passion to making sure that elections are fair.
Okay, we have time for one additional question, and then we'll move to closing statements. Marcia, we're going to start with you with this final question, which is that in the past, again, approximately a decade ago, efforts were made to determine ways the city of Peoria and Peoria County could work together to save money, create efficiencies, and combine efforts in some cases where necessary. Do you think that approach should be explored again? And are there any specific ideas that you would want them to look into or specific areas?
I believe when you have a collaboration, you're always going to get more ideas which can create better results. So the city and the county working together, sometimes people are going to butt heads and they're going to not see eye to eye, but at least you're exchanging ideas. Just because you don't like someone else's idea doesn't mean that it isn't a valid idea, and it might work with a little tweaking or little changes. I think that there's a lot of programs out there that you can combine on, especially with there's like programs out there for getting grants. If we had like a grant person who could investigate and just that would be their position, and it would help both organizations, like a grant writer, because they can find funding for both organizations. But I believe that collaboration is a good thing. It doesn't always work, but for the most part, any kind of exchange of ideas is always a good step forward.
Full agreement. That's what we do in business every day. We streamline our operations. We try to make them more efficient. That's the lens in which I look through on a daily basis. I've been doing this for 36 years. I got to work with my dad, alongside my dad. He was an efficiency guru. You don't survive 3 generations by being inefficient and having a sloppy organization. So I plan on taking those skills and my mindset into that. And of course, if there's any efficiencies between city and county, I'm all for it. I'm all for looking at something like that, analyzing it, and see if there's any efficiencies that can be saved. I had a good conversation with Sheriff Watkins, and he and I were talking about these exact same things. And there are some opportunities out there, and there may be some areas that are not opportunities out there, and I'm happy to help make decisions on that.
All right.
I absolutely believe that there are efficiencies to be made, as Brett said, by having the city and the county work together. I think the health department is one good example. That is a city-county health department. We should not be competing for the same dollars when we can work together for grant funds or our state or federal funds. Those are things we can work on together. I work with several people in the city, particularly in terms of economic development, and absolutely the more that we can work together, the more synergy we can have.
All right, and Nate.
Most certainly, I would agree with the streamlining of both county and city resources. Enid mentioned one success story. That's the city-county health department, that the county actually does most of the heavy lifting and administration of that. Another one of my favorites is the dog catcher. The county oversees the dog PCAPs to be officially, but I'm a pet lover, so it's that's one that's near and dear to my heart. But in the area of law enforcement, there's probably some areas that we can streamline the policing of certain neighborhoods, how the jail operates. I live in unincorporated Peoria County, but I'm right next OSF Center for Health. So if I have a police call, the sheriff comes to me, not the Peoria police. So there might be some way to create different zones that border the city of Peoria that might alleviate some of the law enforcement that has to come from the county. So I think there's a lot of work that can be done, and we can save money. So I'm definitely in support of that.
All right, and we will now move to closing statements for each candidate, and based on the order, we'll begin as we began. Brett, and move on down.
Doesn't that work out great? Yes, I plan on bringing my business skills into the board, seeing it through the lens of how business owners see operations. You know, there was a comment made about, and I agree with you, on housing prices and how they went up and our property taxes went up. I think that's an overarching theme throughout cities, state, country, is our politicians, I call them, elected officials in some cases, are hoping on inflation. And that's essentially what's going on. We've had a tax increase based on inflation. I want to bring those types of mindsets into the county board. I believe that any kind of government organization should be able to run in the black. There's no reason whatsoever we should run in the red. And my plan is to be coming into this board and being an observer, a listener, to understand how things operate, but I'm also going to come in with a mindset of how can we make this place more efficient, because I've lived in the city all but 4 years of my life. And, you know, Bradley, love Bradley, but at the same time, I'm here forever. I've got a business establishment here, and I want to make this city as healthy financially as we possibly can, and of course, be the most effective city and county we have. But with all that said, I believe we can keep taking the responsibility and leadership on the board a little bit more responsible. Thank you.
Thanks again to everyone who came out to this session today. I believe that I have several duties as a county board member. The first is to listen to my constituents. And so I hope anyone here who is a constituent of mine, feel free to call me up, send me an email. Second, to help the most vulnerable, particularly in my district. Third, to oversee county operations with the greatest of integrity and ethics. And four, to maintain fiscal responsibility. We are lucky at how well Peoria County is run, and there's always places for improvement, and we will continue to work on that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So again, thanks for everyone for coming out, League of Women Voters, Peoria Public Library, appreciate that. The news people who are here, appreciate the support. So I believe that the Peoria County Board needs vision and leadership, and my experience matters. So I'm the incumbent board member, so they've already trained me. They spent 1.5 years training me on how to use my iPad, so I'm up to speed. So I am already making good use of county money because I won't have to retrain someone. Well, anyway, I have a 4S strategy. I've had this in my last campaign. It's stop the exodus and grow. We need to stop people from leaving Peoria County. The next S is we need safe neighborhoods. We need to pay competitive wages for the sheriffs and the people at the jail. The third S is we need to streamline county government. We've got a lot of vacant positions that we could just get off the rolls and we wouldn't need to budget for them. And then there's a backdoor slush fund, I call it, in the way that we budget for open positions. So I'd be glad to talk to anyone about that. I want to eliminate the back door. And then my fourth S is just steward your tax dollars, which I believe I can do with my business experience. Now, I would add a fifth S that's just been, that affects a lot of my district, and that sixth S is be sensitive to the racial tension that exists in my district. And so that didn't make my flyers, but it's been brought to my attention of just some of the racial tension, especially now with the Cure violence debacle. So I'm adding that as well. But when you go to the vote, if there's any District 8 voters here, of course you got to be in District 8 to vote for me. Vote for Nate for District 8.
Yeah, Marcia.
Thank you for giving me this opportunity to introduce myself to everyone here in the audience and also to the League of Women Voters. Over the years, I've had a lot of people mentoring me, and I acknowledge that their mentorship has given me the knowledge and led me on this path to public service. And by being on the board, I would like to continue that. I believe in my district, public safety is an issue and economic growth is an issue. And as Nate had mentioned, the racial disparity, I'm in the neighborhoods with the racial disparity where that may be. So I feel like I'm more akin to understanding some of the folks because they are my neighbors. I believe there's sensible solutions to all problems, and I will tirelessly work to gain those solutions and help the community and help my neighbors. And I want to thank everyone for their support and appreciate anyone's vote. Thank you.
All right, and I will remind everybody, whether you vote by mail, whether you vote early, or whether you vote in person on November 5th on Election Day, please take the opportunity to vote. If you have additional questions, you can try to catch the candidates before they head out. I want to offer the opportunity for a round of applause at the end for everyone. And I'm going to give it over to others one more time. Let's do closing remarks.
Well, I would like to thank everybody who's here and our candidates for joining us today on the Saturday morning. I know you'll be getting ready for door-to-doors. But in the meantime, if you, your candidate form is available for your friends and family and neighbors to share on our YouTube channel and let them know so they can go and watch what we streamed today. And I'll tell everybody, start early voting starts on September 26th. And if you know anybody who haven't registered to vote yet, it's October 9th is the last date to register to vote. And the election date is again November 5th. And thank you so much.
They can register and vote.
Thank you.
And online voter registration is open until October 20th.
Well, there we go. Online registration is open until October 20th. So I guess when you go to register to vote, you can vote early vote at the same day. Okay? I hope everybody knows. Have a good day. And I would like to thank our candidates for being here. Please give them a round of applause for joining us.